Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You are tuning into the Ask Schellie Show. I am your host, Schellie Fan. Super happy to be here on today. I'm a licensed psychotherapist here in Orlando, Florida. Again, you are tuning into the Ask Schellie Show. And today we are highlighting questions all about love, sex, and relationships. In my 23 years of experience, and my privilege of serving couples, I want to say, I'm going to be nice and say about 85% of the time, I'm sure it's higher, when couples come to my office and they are needing help with their issues, it's almost always rooted in a lack of intimacy. Okay, it's almost always rooted in a lack of intimacy. So they come in, we're having communication issues, an intimacy deficient marriage. They come in, we're not communicating anymore, we're not having sex anymore. Most of the time, an intimacy deficient marriage. We are just not connecting anymore. We barely talk. We don't date. I'm not attracted to him anymore. I'm not attracted to her anymore. My wife isn't having sex. Whatever it is, most of the time, it is rooted in a lack of intimacy. So today we are talking about love and sex and relationships, because we want to make sure that we are able to overcome those intimacy issues in our marriages. Again, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Schellie Fan, licensed psychotherapist here. I am emotional. I am emotional. I am an emotional intelligent expert. And as an emotional intelligence expert, I cannot speak today. I have the privilege of working with corporations, providing psychoeducation to bring them to their next level. As a licensed psychotherapist, I have the privilege of working with individuals, with adolescents and adults, providing evidence-based therapeutic interventions that help them in achieving harmony and prosperity in all different aspects of their lives. And as the host of the Ask Schellie Show, I have the privilege of answering and providing feedback to the questions of individuals who are trying to maximize their overall wellness. That is what I do. Again, today we are talking about love, sex, and relationships. And so if you are tuning in, please go into the comments. I have a couple of screens going on right now for the first time. Oh boy, I need an assistant. So now, for you who are watching, you have the opportunity to join me right here on this stage to ask your question. All you have to do is click on the link that's in the comments of this live, and it'll bring you right to the stage. You can turn your camera off. You do not have to display your name either, and you can ask your question in a confident and private way. You can also email your questions to info@askschellie.com right now, and I will respond to them. You can also record a quick video of yourself asking the question and send it to info@askschellie.com. Now, we need a safe place where we can ask these questions. We need a safe place where we can ask these questions. Why do we need a safe space to ask these questions? I want to go over a statistic that I saw. Let me go to it right now and pull it up. And this is according to the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy. According to the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy, there was a study where they had a sample of 2,371 recently divorced individuals, okay? That is 2,371 recently divorced individuals. And basically what they did, they surveyed them and asked them to highlight the number one reason why they were divorced. And among all their responses, what do you think landed first place? A lack of intimacy. So we're going to get into it today. And as we wait for individuals to log in to ask your questions, again, you can send your questions to info@askschellie.com. If you want to join me right here on stage, You have to just click on the link, go into the comment section or go into the caption of this live, and you will find the StreamYard link at the bottom. Keep your questions clean. All right, we don't need any perverted people logging in. And we are going to talk about your questions. I want to be able to highlight just a few quick points before we get into this conversation. A few quick points just to set the stage for what we are going to be talking about today. So for those of you who just logged in, we are talking about love, sex, and relationships. And the reason why is because it is the month of February and we are celebrating healthy intimacy. Healthy intimacy. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we are maximizing our emotional intelligence in the area of intimacy and sex. And while I can do this for hours, for those of you who know, I'm a lecturer. I can stand up and I can teach on intimacy forever. As a matter of fact, I launched a workshop that has become a movement called Sex Zones, and it lays out a prescription for married couples to follow to maximize their intimacy and the fire in their headquarters. And in this prescription, it talks about the difference between intimacy and sex and breaks down how to maximize the attachment and the connectivity between husband and wife. And so we'll talk about sex zones a little bit later. Let me get into the top 3 points that I want to highlight today just to set the stage for what we are talking about. And then we'll get to our questions. I see that we have someone that just logged in. Again, click on the StreamYard link. It should be in the caption of this live, where this live is streaming in. Just go to that, click on it. You can turn your camera off. You can identify yourself as anything or anyone you want, just as long as it's not perverted or profane. And I'll bring you on stage with me to ask your question. So just three things that I want to talk about before we go into questions. Number one, understand this, that as human beings, we are wired to achieve safety through the connectivity, the attachment, and the bonds that we have with other individuals. If you believe that you do not need to be connected to other people, that you don't need other people, understand that that is not how we are wired. Not only are we wired to be in relationship with other people, the intimacy, that safety is required. Safety is required to maximize intimacy. The way that we perceive safety has a lot to do with the attachment, connectivity, and the way that we bond with other people. See, when it comes to passion, we think that passion is rooted in desire. Passion is rooted in a longing for connectivity. Now, some of you may be like, no, that is not what passion is. No, don't mistake passion versus lust. True passion is a longing for connectivity. There are studies that show that our arousal is enhanced when we have established an intimate relationship with other people. The erection is stronger and longer. The lubrication for women happens at a high degree for longer durations of time when we are in connectivity and high intimacy with the person that we are laying with. So understand this, that intimacy, that connectivity, that bonding, that attachment, we were wired to achieve that with others. So this idea that you don't need a man or you don't need a woman is not even how we were wired as human beings. The second thing, amazing sex with your spouse is the fruit of intimacy, but not the cause of it. Let me say that again, okay? So intimacy with your spouse. Understand that great sex is the fruit of intimacy with your spouse, but it's not the cause of it. So, see, this is great sex, but great sex does not necessarily produce intimacy. So you can have great sex with someone that you're not intimate with, but this is what happens. The great sex cannot prolong, right, or contribute to the longevity of your union. Eventually, the sex will not be enough. You need connectivity. You need trust. You need attachment. Okay, this is very important for you to understand. Great sex is the fruit of intimacy, but not the cause of it. We must be very intentional. We must be very intentional about establishing a culture and nurturing a culture that continues to produce intimacy. Thank you, Natty. Natalie says, oh, yeah, I'm sorry to say, but great sex is not going to maintain your marriage until one of you or the both of you take your last breath. But intimacy will, where great sex is not enough to overcome, intimacy sure will. The third thing, I want you to listen to this. Sex and intimacy is one of the most undiscussed topics in kingdom churches, but is among the top reasons for divorces in kingdom churches. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense? So we need a safe space to talk about this, because a lack of intimacy, which what produces, what do we say? Great sex, is one of the reasons, top reasons why marriages fail. But we can't find a safe space within the four walls of our churches to talk about this. Where do they do that at? Right? And think about it. Great marriages and strong marriages produce what? Strong marriages produce strong families, and strong families produce strong communities, and strong communities produce a strong nation. And I am paraphrasing and I am quoting Dr. Miles Monroe. Let me say that again. A strong marriage produces a strong family. Strong families produce strong communities, and strong communities produce a strong nation. So why aren't we talking about orgasming and finding your wife's G zone and frequency and overcoming trauma so that we can effectively please one another in a kingdom marriage? Guys, we have to talk about this. And this is why we are focusing on love, sex, and relationships for the month of February, to highlighting intimacy on today. Let me see. So we have some people that have logged in. So those of you who are logging in, understand that you do not have to access your camera. You don't have to identify yourself, accurately. Keep it clean, please. Keep it clean. Guys, this is a risk, but I am trusting my guests on today. The link is in the comment section. It should also be in the caption for this live, where you can join me right here on stage to ask your question. So I want to greet my guests. I see that we have Lisa Stone logged in. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for joining in. I see my team is on, engaging. The rest of you who are listening, Natalie, hello. Thank you so much. Martine, thank you so much for joining in. Martine says, makes lots of sense. It does. We need a place to talk about this. And Natalie says, because I think she said that right when I said that great sex is not necessarily sustaining, but intimacy is. All right, so we're going to start here. We have Anonymous joining us. You can go ahead and unmute your line. Anonymous is on now. You can go ahead and unmute your line and ask your question. Anonymous, if you are on stage with me, you can go ahead and ask your question. Are you on with us?
Hello?
Hello. Welcome, Anonymous. You can go ahead and ask your question. You are on the Ask Schellie show.
Hi, Schellie. Well, my question is, how can I get my spouse to want to be intimate or be excited about being intimate before we get into having sex? Like, maybe, what are some things we can do to build that intimacy, not pertaining to just sex, but just as far as a couple?
Okay, so you are talking about you and your husband, or specifically yourself?
No, just me and my husband. How can I get him excited to want to do those things? Because, with men, sometimes it could just be like, they just want to get straight to it. So how do I get him excited so that we're both sharing the the sex more passionately? How do I
Okay.
bring passion without going straight into it, um, on an emotional, more on an emotional level?
Okay. I'm happy that you said passion, because one of the things that we talked about earlier, and I don't know when exactly you logged in, is that passion is not necessarily a desire for sex, right? Passion is rooted in a desire for connectivity. So if we enhance the connectivity and the intimacy, then you should find sex to be much more gratifying. So the question then is, what are we doing to nurture that intimacy? And so I'm gonna share something with you, and I want you to tell me how intentional you guys are about this. So there are many things that we can do to enhance intimacy. That is a very loaded question, but I'm going to narrow it down to quality time and how intentional we are about three forms of contact that increase and enhance the attachment and the bonding between two people. And that's eye contact, skin contact, verbal contact. And that is done uninterrupted. The kids are not crawling all over. I can hear your background noise. So it sounds like you have some little ones, unless you're running a daycare, right? And so making sure that this time, this quality time where eye contact is happening and verbal contact is happening and skin contact is happening, it doesn't necessarily have to be full blown sex, but just making sure that you are maximizing those times where you are interacting on those levels. In addition to that, we have to, sex happens in three different zones. Most of the time when people want intimacy coaching, they want to know about what positions that can they use, what are some new positions, how can I find my wife's G zone, how can I prolong my orgasm, and all those things are great. But one of the things that we cannot forget are the other zones that lead up to that great sex. Cold zone is where you have those regular routines with your husband, right? Just your day-to-day life. Does your day-to-day life, if I look at your calendar, if I look at how you divide up your hours in a day, am I able to see that you honor and nurture your marriage? Most of the time we don't. We start attending to our loved one after the kids are asleep, right? After they've been put down, when you have 30 minutes before you knock out. Well, that is not establishing a culture for which intimacy can be maximized. In the warm zone, this is the degree to which we flirt with one another. We're connecting with one another. We're using the largest organ on our body to stimulate one another. You know what that large organ is? We're all quick to talk about nipples and penises and all other very direct contact with our genital organs. But one of the largest organs on our body that's equally sexually and erogenous is our skin. So how are you maximizing the use of skin and communication and spiritual connectedness and emotional connectedness? Understand that intimacy happens on four different levels: physical, it happens on an emotional level, mental level, and spiritual level. Making sure that you're really paying attention to those things, because intimacy and really maximizing sexual gratification, a lot of that is rooted in safety. The more safe I feel, now we could turn on the lights. Now I feel safe. I could take the muumuu off and engage in sexual intimacy completely naked. So understanding that when it comes to how can we romanticize sex, right? Because you're saying he just wants to jump into it, or you guys are just kind of jumping into it. I'm hearing the need to romanticize it, and we can't talk about romanticizing the sex until we talk about enhancing your intimacy. And that starts with being intentional about the time that you guys are spending with one another, having those conversations of care, checking in with one another about how you're feeling. Are you feeling fulfilled? When's the last time you cried? Are you feeling strong? When's the last time you felt embarrassed? Do you feel enough? These are things that we have to make sure that we start having these really deep conversations to increase the connectedness and the attachment with the person that we love. And so when we have that in place, and you're maximizing things in the cold zone, that's your day-to-day operations as husband and wife, bills and taking care of the house and all those things. When you have made sure that you are honoring that connection between you and your husband in cold zone, and that you're doing that warm zone stuff, you're texting each other's photos, you're flirting, he's hitting your butt and smacking that butt while you're cooking, and all these things that may not necessarily be full-blown sex, but the things that kind of lead up to it. We shouldn't just do those things 5 minutes before we have sex. You should have a culture of that in your home. And then when you get to hot zone, you want to make sure that you are in a place where you have de-stress, You have decompressed. So you have to learn that, Anonymous. You got to learn how to decompress from the day so that you can be fully present in the sexual intimacy with your husband. So when you want to turn up the fire, we got to make sure that the anxiety is not turned up with it. And then we wonder why this is so awkward and it feels like a chore. It's because you're anxious. Orgasm happens when we are at our most relaxed state. So being very intentional about how you are decompressing before sex, right? We talked about all that great intimacy stuff that you got to build up, but you have decompressed, your anxiety levels are low, you guys are connecting, you're using that skin and really paying attention to your erogenous zones and getting yourself all worked up and then engaging in that sexual act. It changes things, right? So how do we romanticize it? You want to make sure that you are decompressing. Make sure that you are very clear with one another about what turns you on, right? We have 5 different senses: our eyes, our smell, our mouth, what we hear, what we feel. Be honest with one another about those things that cause you to be stimulated, cause each sense to be stimulated. Decompress, have those conversations, flirt with one another, tell each other what you want to do, tell each other what you want to receive. Just, slow it down. We just gotta slow down. We even have to slow down the way that we kiss our spouses. It's just like, slow it down. Slow it down, decompress, but make sure that you're being very honest with him about what you want from him, right? And what romanticizing looks like. But I gotta say this, Anonymous, make sure that you are focusing on building an intimacy, and that is with intentional time where you guys are engaging consistently in eye contact, verbal contact, and skin contact happening at once to get that neurological bonding and attaching happen. You will see a major shift in your sexual experience. Have I answered your question? You're very welcome. Thank you for tuning into the Ask Schellie show. Thank you. We have another person. Let's see. We have now. I see, Doctor, do you want to, if you don't want your name displayed, you can go ahead and change the display name. I just want to make sure that I say that so that everyone knows exactly what they're about to do. You're about to come onto my live and ask your question. And so I am about to, let's see. All right. So I see that we have a doctor here that wants to come on. You have to make sure that you're giving StreamYard the permission to access your microphone. Once you do that, I'll be able to get you on. I'm going to go into our next person. Patrona Lisa, you are on the Ask Schellie show. You can go ahead and ask your clean question. Or as clean as you can get it. Patrona Lisa, you are on the Ask Schellie show. Make sure you unmute your mic and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, Schellie. My question is, can you love someone that you now hate?
Okay. I think sometimes we experience emotions that are not necessarily accurate. So we have to be very, very careful with the words that we use, because sometimes we will use words that are not necessarily true or accurate to the situation. For example, a lot of the times I will find women accusing their men of being selfish because they don't attend to them. Well, that means, is it truly selfishness, or is it just the fact that he's not as attentive as you want? So the word is not selfish, the word is inattentive. Just the change of those words can change the entire situation. So is it truly hate? Or is it that you are extremely frustrated, or you're having needs that are not being met? There's an excitement that's gone, and with that excitement gone, you tend to not have the capacity to really want to be around the person and spend time with them. And I don't know what that is. I mean, obviously, if you want to unmute and explain, you can do so, but understand that do you really hate this person that you used to love? Or is there something else that's going on that's causing you to feel like it's hate? But I'm sure if we unpack it together, we would find that maybe it's just extreme frustration of not having certain expectations met. Because when you go for a long period of time not having your expectations met, that will make you feel or fool you into thinking that you have this hatred for this person when it's really just a great deal of frustration, a great deal of frustration because you have needs that are not met or expectations that are not met, especially when you have talked to the person about your expectations, that person has committed to meeting those expectations, but yet they continue to not meet those expectations. And so understand that unpacking that and really exploring deep where that feeling comes from, that intense emotion comes from, and let's give it an accurate name. And let's identify those unmet expectations that have led you to experiencing this emotion. And what can we do to get some good communication in with the person that you love about those unmet expectations? Can we get certain commitments? Can we get some therapy in there to address why the person is not as committed as you need them to be to meet those expectations? There's so many levels to it, but what we do is we will subscribe to this belief system that I hate this person and I don't see any other option or any other direction but at the exit sign, and make a permanent decision that's based on a series of emotions that are truly seasonal. And so, Patrona Lisa, I would definitely recommend that you unpack that. I'm not really sure if it's true hatred, and I don't know much, but I know that a lot of the times when couples come in to see me and they are declaring hate for one another, it truly is just rooted in other emotions. There are some emotions that are just easy to have, like anger, for example. Anger is a series of many emotions, right? But sometimes it's so much easier to process the anger as opposed to the disappointment, the betrayal, the embarrassment, the unfulfillment, this self adequacy issue. We tend to go straight to that easier emotion like anger and hate, but truly underneath that, there may be a lot of hurt that we need to unpack, right? And get some healing there so you're not feeling like you hate this person that you possibly, and I'm thinking highly possibly, truly love. I hope this was helpful, Patrona Lisa.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We have another question here. It says device not connected. I'm going to try to get this guest connected. It still says that you don't have permission. You did not share or give StreamYard permission to unmute or to have access to your microphone. So I want to take your question. If you want to go ahead and put it in the private chat, those of you who are logged in, you can go ahead and join me right here on stage on StreamYard to ask your question. You can keep your camera off. You can re-identify yourself and ask your question. You can also send your questions into info@askschellie.com, and I will highlight them here. Let me go to my email right now and take a look and see if there were any questions that came in. Hi, Kevin Matthews. Thank you so much for joining the Ask Schellie show. If you have any questions, feel free to email them, info@askschellie. You can also go into the comment section of this live. I'll highlight it there. And I'm going into my email, and I have, okay, I have a question, guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now listen, remember last season where I said that we were all in this together? You can go ahead and add your feedback in the comment section, because all of our feedback matters, right? So you may have had an experience for yourself, something that you did to overcome, and it's important for our guests to hear that. So I have a question, info@askschellie.com, and it reads, Dear Ask Schellie, my wife often passes gas and thinks it's funny. I used to laugh along with her and even told her it was cute at one point, but it is not. I was in love then, and now I am not that goo goo gaga. I love her. We are just not at that goo goo gaga stage anymore. That being said, I am disgusted by it and find it hard to have sex afterward. It takes me a while to get over the disgust before I can get sexually stimulated by her again. Is this normal? All right, so my listeners, go into the comments section. What is your feedback for this person that just wrote in? Again, for those of you who are joining, you can also submit your questions to info@askschellie.com. We are talking about love, sex, and relationships, taking questions live right here on the Ask Schellie show. All right, so this is a husband who's saying that his wife passes gas, and he finds it very disgusting. At one point, he thought it was kind of cute, but now they're not at that point, and he finds it quite disgusting. And so what do you guys think I'm going to say? Especially those of you who have been watching over the past or a little over a year now. What do you think I'm about to say? The importance of what? The importance of communication, and true effective communication is the fruit of intimacy, where we are able to be honest and open with the person that we love. One of the things that I love to do in marriage counseling sessions is a session where husband and wife talk about the things that they're disillusioned about. These things are important conversations in order to really maximize connectivity, because you cannot connect on an intimate level and not be completely open and vulnerable with the person that you love. And so Jen Bradshaw says, I can relate to being disgusted about constant flatulence. Now, it's important. So he asked, is this normal? Yes, Ryder, it's normal. It is absolutely normal. I personally do not think that there's anything cute about that. And I don't want to call anybody out, MOM. I don't want to call anybody out, but I think it's disgusting. I really do. This is my opinion, ladies. This is my opinion, okay? Because my mother has told me that I have a double standard when it comes to this. But I think that there is, you guys know, I hope you guys don't crucify me for this. I'm going to be honest, okay? I think that there's a level of grace that we should be intentional about maintaining as women. Is that okay? I'm just being honest, right? And so I totally understand. Oh, we have another person coming in for a question. And so I totally understand your disgust. So when you ask, is it normal? The question is absolutely yes. You have certain things that cause you to be attracted to the woman that you love, and there are things that may cause you to not be so attracted. So you know what you do? You communicate the things that you want to see more of, and the things that cause you to be averse, that cause you aversion. And I think that's okay. Now, if you're getting to a place where you don't think that it's safe enough to share with your loved one the things that cause you to want to go to sleep, or the things that cause you to, and not be at attention, if you know what I mean, right? So if it's causing you some erectile dysfunction, then go ahead and share that. Yes, Natalie, you are right. Natalie says it's a double standard. I never said that men can, though, Natalie. I never said that men can. I just said that I believe that women should be intentional about maintaining some level of grace. In this particular case, this man doesn't like it. He says that he finds it hard to engage in sexual acts with his wife after she has had her gas spells. And again, it's normal. Communicate, sir. Communicate with your wife. Let her know that it's no longer funny. And back in the day when you said it was cute, this is why sometimes we don't want to be honest, because in our honesty, you're going to have to come clean about how you weren't honest in another season of your relationship, right? We don't want to be honest about the fact that you were lying, right? At the beginning when you guys were goo goo gaga for one another and you told her it was cute. And now you have to circle back around and say, I hated it then, I hate it even more now, right? And so be honest, communicate, guys, husbands and wives out there. We need to get to a place where communication is safe again, where you can truly share your heart with the person that you love. Let her know that you think it's nasty and you want to alleviate that in your relationship. Set down some expectations. Make sure that you are using clear communication. Your I statements are really important. I feel aversion when you do that. I love you and I'm attracted to you, and I want to alleviate all barriers to us having maximized sexual gratification. So, because of this, I want us to come to a compromise, right? And so, have that courageous conversation with the person that you love, and know it is not abnormal to be totally turned off by your wife's flatulence. All right. And so Natalie forgives me for my double standard. Thank you so much. Lisa Stone says, out of 28 years, I have never farted, or should I say, passed gas around my husband. Do we believe her? Do we believe her? Go in the comment section. Do we believe Lisa Stone? She says, out of 28 years, she has never farted, or should I say, passed gas around my husband. Do we believe her? Do we believe her? She says, ask him. Well, thank you so much for that, Ryder. I hope that was helpful. Communicate with your wife. It's not abnormal to be completely turned off by it. That's okay. All right. Tina says, no, we don't believe you. Tina says, no. Thank you so much for your response, Tina. We do have another question. So, person who is coming on, TT, you can keep your camera off if you would like. I'm going to go ahead and bring you right on the stage with me. TT, you are on the Ask Schellie show. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, Schellie. Absolutely. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. And I got on right at a hot topic, I see.
Love, sex, and relationships. That's what it's about all month.
Yes. Okay, I do have a question. I do communicate with a lot of young women who are looking to be married, that are Christians and are trying to uphold their beliefs and their commitment to the Lord, and they are having difficulty keeping, not, I don't want to say keeping, well, yeah, maybe keeping men that uphold that standard as well. What would be your advice? Because how I would advise them is to just leave, and God will send the person that's there for you. But when you're young, I remember being at that place where I felt like time was moving and stuff like that. How do we encourage our young women to remain faithful and believe that compromise is not an option when you have held standard for yourself?
Listen, you just dropped a bomb. You just dropped a bomb. Okay. So basically what I'm hearing you say, how do young women who have committed themselves to celibacy, how do they maintain that? Because especially when they are aligning themselves with men who are not as committed, right? So how do they continue to honor this decision, right? This commitment that they made to the Lord when everybody in these streets are not trying to hear it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that question. Okay, consultation team. So the question is, what do we tell these young women who have made a commitment to the Lord that this is what I'm going to do? I'm not going to engage in sexual acts until I'm married. And they are not finding men that are agreeable to the standard that they have set for themselves. What do we tell them? What advice do we give them? What feedback do we give them? So for those of you who are watching, I see Natalie's engaging, and Martine, Lisa Stone, Rose Wright. Rose, thank you so much. Hi, Rose. She had shared something about the flatulence. She says, yes, communicate. Tell her how it makes you feel. Those I statements are so important. Thank you so much. Rose, Jen Bradshaw, Alethea, Kevin Matthews, help me out here. What do we tell a young woman who wants to maintain celibacy and can't find a man that honors the same? And this is what I believe that, we have some people that have stayed on. Oh, wow. Okay. I have some questions that were sent like direct message too. I'm going to try to get to them all because we are at 12:41 and I want to make sure that I am honoring your time as well. This is good. I think I want to do this more often.
This is
Okay,
great.
so I think it's important that in commitment and conviction, there is no option. That's what conviction is. And I think that in the kingdom, right, when we're talking about kingdom citizens, we have lost sight of that. Your commitment means that there is no compromise, that this is what I am deciding to do. And most of the time, the people who are convicted to doing that understand that there are indescribable and unimaginable blessings on the other side of your consistent commitment to what you said you're going to do for the Lord. Anytime, let me say this, anytime we try to what is going on? I'm getting messages even via text. Okay, guys, I'm going to try to get to them all. But as I was saying, anytime that we stay committed and convicted to something that we set out to do to honor the Lord in our lives, the blessings are always beyond what we could ever imagine or think. This is why it's important, even when we don't think that the commitment is much, right? So when you decide that you're going to go on a 21-day fast and end it at 7, your inability to carry out that commitment matters. The small things that we do not do to honor those commitments, they matter. And so we have to understand that when you stay committed, right? When you stay committed to what you said you were going to do, the promises of the Lord are endless. Now, we all have access to the promises of the Lord, but there's something about when you honor the Lord with your life, you would literally starve your flesh to cause your spirit to rise in ways that are indescribable. The blessings are insurmountable. So one of the things that we have to understand, that we have to make sure that the person, the mindset of the person in trying to assess the mindsets of this women is, what is your why? That's very important. What is your why? Sometimes we do things just to do them, but we don't necessarily have why. I remember there was a time when I was counseling a daughter of a bishop. And she was going through all this guilt and shame about leaving her home and then engaging in drinking at college, right? And so she had all this guilt and she had all this shame. And one of the things I said to her was, what is wrong about what the decisions that you've made? That's what I asked. And I didn't tell her it was right. I just needed her to tell me what was wrong. Well, we don't drink in my family. That's something, none of us drink in our family. That's how I was raised. I said, great, that's how you were raised. Tell me what is wrong with drinking. Well, I thought you were a Christian too. Oh, yeah, I am. I'm not saying it's right. I just need you to see what is wrong. See, what happens is we get convicted to things that we don't even have a why for. And that's why we can't maintain our commitments to the Lord, because we don't have a why. Right? We don't necessarily have a why. And so our convictions are empty because we can't even unpack it. So it's important that we ask these young girls and make sure that they understand, what is your why? And when that why is healthy, when that why is rooted in the true knowledge of the Lord and what it is they are doing, then we can, because that's important. It's very hard to stay convicted to something that you don't have a why for. Right. So assessing that why is really important, and making sure that they understand that great is your reward. A lot of the times we don't truly believe that there is a blessing on the other side. Great is your reward. People will fail, but God will never fail. And so we have to help them to understand that you got to focus on the next. If the enemy can keep us focused on the now, we will never truly be all that we were called to be as kingdom citizens. Our next is greater. Our next is always greater. Because the word says The word says that what? The latter rain is greater than the former. There is always greater next. There is always greater next. I don't care who left you because you wouldn't sleep with him. Greater is next. I don't care about the man that said, just pop it, just put your mouth on it for 2 minutes because I'm about to pass out. Greater is next. We have to stay committed and understand that greater is our next. And so, what is your why? Right? What is your why? Remember that greater is coming. And if a man says that he's not able to do it, then fine. You know what it means? It means that you're not equally yoked. You're not equally yoked. And that means that that person is coming. There's a way that the enemy will send an imposter before God sends the real thing. And so we have to make sure that these young women understand that when you are aligned with a man that's not able to honor that commitment. So let me just say this. We talked about unequal yokeness, right? We want to make sure that we're equally yoked. But there's something else that I need to highlight here. A man that is not able to engage in that commitment. I know it's difficult, but that says a lot about self-discipline. We have to align ourselves with men and women who have the ability to say yes when they really want to say no, and those who have the ability to say no when they really want to say yes. That is the definition of self-discipline. There are people that cannot even control their flesh, let alone manage a marriage. So when women are able to see it on a greater scale like that, then yes, run. When he runs, say, thank you, Lord. Your rejection is my protection because greater is coming. And that's what you tell them. Tell those young girls, TT, make sure that they examine their why, make sure they have a why, make sure they truly understand the greatness in what they're doing. Help them to understand that equal yokeness is very important, to not compromise that, and help them to see and to continue to encourage them in that we do not want to align ourselves with men or women that do not have self-discipline. You got to watch out, men, when she's broken 10 diets in the 2 months that you've known her. That means that there's a self-discipline issue. I'm not saying that you shouldn't marry her. I'm just saying you need to put a red flag in that, because we need people that are ready to take dominion in the earth. And if you are not able to take dominion over your appetite, we got a problem.
My Lord.
We got a problem. Thank you, TT.
All right.
Oh my gosh, I recognize that voice. I think I know who that was. All right, let's go to the comments here. Let's go to the comment section. Ooh, we got a lot. Natalie Guzman says, Talisa Stone, who has not passed gas in 28 years of marriage, says 28 is a long time. And oh, my cousin Cindy Cindy Fun says, hey, Schellie, hello. Let's see. And Martine says, you need a part 2 of this segment. Okay, maybe. And Natalie says, I agree. Not sure what you're agreeing with, but thank you for your agreement. Thank you for throwing me under the bus from my perceived double standard. Kevin Matthews says, she may have to rub it with hand or dry hump. So Kevin Matthews is talking about the young women that are committing themselves to a life of celibacy. He's saying she may have to rub it with hand or dry hump. Guess what, Kevin Matthews? That is not celibacy, honey. Celibacy is not, I'm not doing this, but I'm going to do this, right? Celibacy is we're not stimulating those sexual zones at any cost, because we are filling those voids with the Spirit. But I find that extremely comical. And Jen Bradshaw says, it's hard, but tell her to maintain her commitment. If a young man truly wants her, he will respect her position. If he doesn't, he's not the one. That's it. He's not the one. And that is it. Listen, think about it. If 20 knows, right? If 20 knows or 20 relationships of deferred success brings you to the man that you are going to, the muscles in your face are going to hurt from so much laughter and joy. That man or that woman that is going to honor you guys going to, and it's not always going to be easy, but maximize intimacy and happiness and communication. And we're traveling together, we're giving birth to these children together, and we are building these families and this legacy with one another. If you know that 20 no's gets you to that woman, or 20 no's gets you to that man, keep it moving, because everyone gets you to that 20, that number 20. If 20 is the number, then you need to go. I need to, okay, you're number 3. Okay, Lord, 17 more. See it like that. But don't waste your time at number 4. You got 16 more to go before you get to, and I'm just giving you an example. It's like, you know, if they're not the one, then they're not the one. A person who's the one is going to be able to handle the positions and the commitments that you have made to yourself and to the Lord, right? That was good. Thank you so much. And I was just highlighting Jen Bradshaw's statement. It's hard to tell her to maintain her commitment. If a young man truly wants her, he will respect her position. If he doesn't, he's not the one. And Natalie Guzman says she should stay true to herself, even if that means she is alone for a while, that time to fall in love with herself, and that she will not compromise that for nothing. No compromise. No compromise when it comes to the commitments that we have made for our wellness. Natalie says, amen. Charles Duvet says she needs to keep praying and keep her focus on God, for he will send her someone who is willing to wait. And that is from a man. Thank you so much, Charles Duvet, for your comment. Rose says also, limit comparing yourselves to others who found their mate. Comparison is the thief of joy. Come on, Rose. Come on, Rose. Limit comparing yourselves to others who found their mate. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I have found women that have said, it's unfair. All my friends are hunching and they're finding the men of their lives and they're getting married, and here I am and I'm doing what I think is right and I'm still single. It's not fair. But you are right, Rose. We have to stop comparing. We have to stop comparing. Marjorie Cola says, amen. And Marjorie Cola says, this is so good. What a topic. And it is. We have to start getting comfortable about sex. I want everybody to say sex. Put in the comments sex. I don't know how many times I am working with grown people that can't say the word. Well, we don't do it enough. What's it? You can't even say sex. Right? And you wonder why the lights have to be out, and you know, you got to keep your clothes on and move your underwear over and all the, no, we have, sex is freeing and it's beautiful. When you're married, you can have it as many times you want and not go to hell. Yes, it still needs boundaries, right? But within those boundaries, it's beautiful. And so we have to start getting comfortable about the word sex and intimacy and gratification within the marital unit. Within the marital unit. So it's okay. We got to get comfortable with it. We are wired to be in connection with one another. Thank you. Keep writing it. Keep putting it in the comments. Keep putting it in the comments. Because we got to draw some boundaries. The enemy is out to steal, kill, and destroy. Remember, strong marriages promote what? Strong families. Strong families promote what? Strong communities. And strong communities promote a strong nation. And so everything that we need to do to strengthen those marriages is highly important. Some of the things that we talked about today is the importance of intimacy, being intimate with the importance of intimacy and being intimate with one another, eye contact, skin contact, verbal contact, making sure that your calendar reflects that you prioritize your marriage, that you prioritize the woman that you love, prioritize the man that you love. We have to make sure that we are maximizing our day-to-day operations, the way that we can go about life to promote that unity and that strength. Intimacy happens on so many different levels. Physical is the lower level. It's the lowest level because there's mental and there's emotional and there's spiritual. And making sure that we are maximizing those levels, it will promote great sex. Intimacy promotes great sex, but great sex does not promote intimacy. Not always, but great intimacy will. And so the focus should be on how can I maximize the connectivity with the person that I love. So we got to go back to laughing with one another. We got to go back to making fun of one another. We got to go back to drawing very clear boundaries when children go to sleep and it's now mommy and daddy time, that they are not in the headquarters with you, that they have their space in their rooms. And I get that all the time. My wife lets the kids sleep in the bed with us. I think it's highly, unhealthy. It is, right? I guess there may be some exceptions to that, right? There may be some exceptions to that, but we have to start creating boundaries to protect the marital unit. I don't know how many times kids go off to college and husbands and wives are sitting there looking at each other and realize that they don't even know each other. They're looking at each other and realize that they don't even know each other because the children were just mere distractions. So we don't want to do that. We want to maximize those day-to-day operations, in life, how we go about life, that we're being intentional about laughing, intentional about dating, intentional about connecting. Do you know the last time your husband has cried? Does he feel fulfilled? Does he feel that he's in purpose? What are his insecurities? When's the last time he felt insecure? And he needs to know the same thing about yourself. Those types of things happen in cold zone, warm zone. We're connecting with one another. We're touching one another. We're having those conversations about the things that we want, the things that we like. We're flirting. We're texting. We're sexting. We're doing these things. You're creating a culture that promotes maximized intimacy. So you're not in bed like, please hurry up and it's a chore. If you feel like it's a chore, that means that there is a lack of intimacy, right? There are couples, there are husbands and wives that do not even maintain eye contact during sex, let alone any type of verbal contact during sex. These are problematic. It's problematic. And if you are just going in and finishing, you are not experiencing the vast spectrum of gratification. There's so much more. And so the more that we focus on intimacy and be intentional about learning, going to counseling, and learning and resolving the injury and all those learned behaviors that make you think that this is nasty and you can't ask for this. You can't say that I'd like you to touch me here, put your mouth here, and all these other things. I feel so uncomfortable, can't even say the word sex. Those things are injurious. And it's time for us to tear that down and save our marriages. Let me say this. As kingdom citizens, we are supposed to be distinctly different from the world. Distinctly different. In the world, but not of the world. So when you look at the suicide rates and see them, that they are almost exactly the same for kingdom citizens and those who are not kingdom citizens. What does that say? Where's the distinct difference? When the divorce rates are the same, where is the distinct difference? I think it's time that we stop hiding and stop being embarrassed or ashamed about speaking about things that it's our blood-born right to enjoy, right? And I'm talking about husbands and wives. For those who are seriously dating, it's important for you to get the knowledge and the new information that you need to prepare yourself for that commitment. I can go on and on, guys. I could go on and on. This was great. Let's see. I have Martine. She says, I'm even having the sex convo with my son soon to be 18, and he does not want to. I'm very open about it and trying to get him to open up about his needs and to make sure he connects and respects the one he chooses to have sex with. She goes on to write, very true stress from current situations affecting my sex life, trying to find ways to bring back intimacy. Right on, sis. Listen, there are people that do not know how to decompress. They just don't know how to even decompress. And so they're laying in bed like, please hurry up. I got 5 more minutes before the muffins are done or whatever. It's horrible. There is, and there's no destination that you could arrive when it comes to sexual intimacy. There are people that achieve the ability to orgasm and climax without any type of penetration, solely because the intimacy is so off the chain. So understand that there are people that are way down here when the potential could be way up here. And it's all about really focusing on enhancing intimacy and connectivity with the person that you love. Amen. All right. So we had a great show today. I am Schellie Fan. I am your emotional intelligence expert and your intimacy enhancement coach. We went live today, taking live questions on love, sex, and relationship. And so every so often, I will have a guest expert come on. Every so often, it'll be just me taking live questions where you can literally join me on stage, ask your question. You can also send videos. You can send videos with your question as well. And I think we had some videos. I will make sure we definitely gonna have a part 2 so I can talk more about this. So if there is a topic that I didn't touch today, like if you are one of the ones that battle with stress, and you want to be able to overcome that stress, right? And you want to be able to overcome that stress so you can enjoy sex with your spouse, write in to info@askschellie.com. Let me go to my email so that you can see it. You can send your questions to info@askschellie.com. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Did I have it? Okay, here we go. So you can submit your questions to info@askschellie.com. You can also record your questions. Just turn that phone horizontal, ask your question on there, and email it to info.com. Also wait for the day of the show. We will always post a link where you can join me on stage and ask your questions there. We will have a part talking about love, sex, and relationships, maximizing intimacy with your spouse, turning off that fire in the headquarters. How do you do it? It's all about learning new information and being open to that new information. If there's something that you heard today that made you feel like, I think I may need additional help, feel free to connect with me, info@askschellie.com. You can also visit with me at www.askschellie.com. You can submit questions there. You can book me. You can book your consultation for you and your husband or whoever you are engaged to if you're in a serious commitment and want to make sure that you get the support of a licensed psychotherapist who is anointed to do this. Go ahead and connect with me. Again, www.askschellie.com. I appreciate your shares and your follows. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Look for Ask Schellie. And be sure before you log out to click share. You never know whose line of sight or within the earshot of a person that needs breakthrough. Never know whose earshot or whose line of sight this live will land in. So go ahead and click share. Make sure that you go into the comments, share your questions, your experiences, and your feedback. It's all valuable. And most importantly, as you log off, be intentional about activating the best version of yourselves. We got to come out of this content, attitude about less. God is great and he deserves greater for you. Our next is always greater. So make sure that we change our mindsets, that we increase our expectations and expect blessings that are beyond what you could ever imagine or think. But it starts with you being intentional about your healing, intentional about learning new information, to lead a life that will attract the desired outcomes that you deserve. Thank you again for joining me on today's Ask Schellie show. I will be live before you next Tuesday at 12 o'clock. I was supposed to have some male guests come on talking about men hurt too. And we were going to talk about relationship trauma from a man's perspective, but I did have some requests for a part 2. So I'll have to circle back around and decide whether we're going to do a part 2 or have these men come on to talk about relationship trauma from a man's perspective. Either way, I'll be here at 12 o'clock, and I will make sure that our advertisements identify what our topic will be for next week. Make sure you send your questions regardless. I will see you here in a week. Be great in all you do. Be great in all that you do. Whatever you do, illuminate and make sure that you dominate, because that is a responsibility that each and every one of us have. So go and get it. Blessings.